Is bowling too easy? Over the last couple of months and even years, you're going to see amazing, amazing bowling series shown online. 300s, 800s, a couple 900s, 890s, just crazy, crazy sets, crazy games of bowling. But the biggest comment you're going to see underneath them is bowling is too easy. So, is this actually the case? Today, we're going to open up this question. We're going to try to hit it as much as we can, go over some facts, go over why the game has gotten easier, how the game has gotten harder, and what the overall answer is to the question of is bowling too easy? If you enjoy what we do here, make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Then you'll get notified when we have videos like this going live. Also, quick reminder, if you want a chamois like this one, go check out our link in the description. We only have a couple of these left, so go check it out. Shout out DH Lab for making amazing, amazing chamois. They only come out to about $25 after shipping. I highly recommend them, and overall reviews have been very high so far. Now let's get into the question at hand. Is bowling too easy? We are going to start with the reasons why bowling has become easier over the last few years. Now, there are a lot of reasons this is happening. So let's go back in history a little bit, back to the golden age of bowling, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Bowling was at its peak. The highest paid athlete in the world was a bowler, which is absolutely crazy to think about, but the game was not what we do today. The game back then was hitting a spot down lane, very, very tiny, and just being consistent. It was not about revolutions. It was not about speed, because bowling balls did not help anything for hooking. They barely hooked. The amount of oil on a lane was very minimal. The topography of the lane itself was terrible. There was no specific ways to check how flat a lane was. So there were so many extra variables that made it more difficult to score higher. One comparison I like to make is to duck pin bowling. Right now, duck pin bowling, it is impossible to shoot 300, nearly impossible. It is very, very difficult to shoot 200 in duck pin bowling. This is similar to how the old school game of bowling was, where it was very difficult to have these high scores. Shooting 300 back in the golden age of bowling was monumental. You were an absolute legend, a god of bowling, if you could actually do this. Now, how has that changed? In the 90s, there was something that was introduced to the game of bowling that, in my opinion, made it a different sport, and that is the reactive resin bowling ball. In the 90s, the reactive resin bowling ball was invented and introduced to bowlers, and this was monumental. This was revolutionary for the game because you could do what you never could in the past, create entry angle to the pocket. And in the sport of bowling, when you're hitting round objects with a round ball, entry angle causes your pin carry to increase, causes you to knock down more pins. And knocking down more pins creates more high games. So since the 90s, I'll have a chart on the screen showing this, number of 300 games has skyrocketed, absolutely skyrocketed. I believe right when it was introduced, there was a 20% increase in 300 games that season, which is an absolute wild number to have. And since then, it has just been consistently increasing as technology has improved. So why is this the case? It can't just be this new creation, new invention has just caused scores to skyrocket. There must be other mentions, other things that are going on. And the answer is yes, there are many other things going on. So let's get into a couple of those. One thing that we're noticing across sports around the planet is just the overall boost of skill level and talent in that sport. So if you take any sport across the planet, you're going to see just consistent increases in talent, strategy, athleticism, training, everything. Let's take Major League Baseball, for example, because I'm a baseball nut at the end of the day. A 100-mile-an-hour fastball 15 years ago, you were not seeing. It was very, very rare. You had a handful of pitchers who could maybe get close to 100 miles an hour. 98 was crazy at the time. Now in 2025, that's a norm. 100 miles an hour is very normal for a lot of relievers and closers, even a lot of starters, which is absolutely crazy. You're seeing people in basketball able to make more threes than ever before. In football, you're seeing people put up better 40 times than ever before. You're seeing crazy, crazy athletic just creations and monumental things happening in every single sport, and bowling is no different. Now, Bowling, in my opinion, is a very young sport. It has been around for a millennia. Ancient Egyptians were bowling, but the game completely changed and actually recreated itself when the reactive resin ball came out. Everything you needed to be good at before the reactive resin ball became different after that came out. So previously, you didn't have to care about almost anything. You had to care about just technique and consistency. That is how you became a good bowler. In today's game, those are important, but you need to know many, many other factors. You need to know oil. You need to know bowling balls. You need to know your own form again. You need to know how to boost your revolutions, boost your speed, change your revolutions, change your speed. There are many other factors that go into play to become a great bowler that were not needed 50 years ago. And with this, every single year, you are seeing better and better athletes get into the world of bowling as the youth movement has blown up in bowling. You are seeing people with higher rev rates, higher speed, more consistency, better spare shooting than you've ever seen in the past. So, like every other sport, bowling is evolving and growing, and the talent level is rising every single year. And a boost in talent level equals a boost in high scores. Bowling has no defense. In other sports, you have defenses that are also evolving with you. In this sport, you don't have that. So those overall league scores are going to continue increasing. That overall average is going to continue increasing across the years as bowlers get better and better and better. And that is not a bad thing. That shows the sport is growing and evolving and bowlers are getting better. Now let's get into bowling conditions and why that has increased scores. So in the past, topography has always been very, very iffy, especially before the 2000s. But in the last 15 to 20 years, USBC really puts an emphasis on having good topography on your lanes. So lanes are becoming flatter, are becoming better overall. Oil machines are becoming more and more consistent, overall better. You're able to put out an exact oil pattern that you want, and bowling ball tech is increasing at a place that no one's ever seen before. Every year, you're seeing new creations. You've seen HK22, you've seen dynamic core, you've seen things like AI core technology, you've seen things like Duramax for motive bowling balls. These might not be terms you know if you're not a hardcore bowler. These are just advances over the last couple of years in bowling ball technology. This isn't even from 10, 15 years ago. This is helping bowlers become better. This is helping you string more strikes together, give you more forgiveness. That is what a bowling ball company is trying to do. It is a competition on who can make the best bowling balls for every bowler in the world. So you're going to see that competition increasing and technology continue to increase. And we've consistently seen that. Any bowler who's thrown older bowling balls can tell you a lot of the newer ones are better in a lot of cases. Now, not all the time, but most of the time it is. So bowling, there are a ton of variables that are becoming more and more set, so they're not as random. Is that a good thing? In my opinion, yes. Taking more randomness out of the game helps the better bowlers, the better competitors rise to the top. Randomness lowers that skill gap between the best and the worst. So removing that randomness from bowling in the last 10, 20, even 30 years has really improved scores. Now, in my opinion, is bowling too easy? No, it is not at all. And here is one of the biggest reasons why I think bowling is not too easy. Now, everything we've covered so far has been about the history of bowling and just a general look at the game. But let's go into just why bowling is not actually easy. I mentioned previously all of the different variables that happen. Well, 50 years ago, there were things like solid bowling ball, pearl bowling ball, hybrid, asymmetric, symmetrical. A lot of these terms you didn't need to know. You didn't need to know a lot of things about the game that you do now. You didn't need to know what the Big Ben oil pattern did versus the Eiffel Tower oil pattern versus red square versus chameleon. These are all terms of oil patterns that you bowl on that are different shapes and sizes, different strategies you need. There is much more strategy in the game of bowling now. It is more of a thinking game than it was in the past because it is a chess match. You are playing golf virtually on an invisible course is what bowling is. You don't know you're out of bounds. You don't know where the water trap is. You don't know where the sand trap is. You might not even know where the approach is. In bowling, you can't see any of that stuff. So you need to have strategy going into it. You need to come up with game plans. You need to come up with solutions that will help you maximize those scores. So while we've taken away that consistency and technique portion of the game that people claim that was there in the 50s, I still think that's still there in today's game, but we're going to go with it. While you take that away, you add in so many extra factors that you need to be aware of as a bowler to be able to maximize those scores. Now, this, what I mentioned, is a lot about tournament bowling. That is a side of bowling that has skyrocketed. That is a side that is truly a strategical game. Now, the other side of it is league bowling, which a lot of this is about, where bowlers say it is too easy to score 800, 850, 900, 300, whatever kind of series or game you're looking for. Now, has that become easier? Yes. But again, it is more about strategy than about that technique and consistency and just specific spot that you can hit. Bowling is not about hitting the same point on a lane 50 feet down. It is about maximizing your error room. That is what every good bowler does. That is how you see some of the best in the world actually win. Nobody can hit the same point down lane 10 times. They couldn't 50 years ago. They couldn't 60 years ago. Pick whatever great of bowling you can. They couldn't do it. It's just not physically possible with the human body. But if you can maximize that air room just a little bit, it gives you that advantage to be able to shoot these high scores. And that is a-okay. So league bowling is about maximizing that air room. And if you maximize it enough, you can shoot these crazy high sets if you have the perfect matchup and the perfect lineup. However, that is much more difficult to do than you would expect. A lot of these bowlers, they don't average 250 and 60. Actually, the highest averages of the last in bowling history came in the early 2000s. They didn't come in the 2020s. They came in the very early 2000s, 2000, 2001, 1999. They didn't come in 2020, 2021, 2022. There are still high averages, but not the highest of averages, both on the men's and the women's side. So, has bowling become too easy? It has become easier to shoot honor scores. Yes, the stats do not lie in that regard. But no, bowling is not too easy. If you are somebody making those comments online, I'd recommend being ready to back them up because there are a ton of phenomenal bowlers out there shooting these really crazy sets. And at the end of the day, anyone can shoot 300. Always remember that. It is only 12 shots that you need to strike. There have been people in history who've shot it with house balls. There are people who in history who have done it with 150 averages. It can happen. It is just 12 shots. It's like a hole-in-one is in golf. Does that show that you're the greatest golfer in the world? No, it does not. Hole-in-ones are incredible. They're amazing feats, just like 300s. However, there is a luck aspect to it. So, is bowling too easy? No, it is actually more difficult in my opinion than ever before because there are so many extra pieces added onto it. The randomness has decreased and the overall talent and skill pool has skyrocketed over the last few years, and we will continue to see that as the youth movement evolves across bowling. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this helped some of you out. Let's have some positive and healthy discussion down in the comments. I don't want to see too much negativity, but I'd love to discuss with you guys what you think. Is bowling too easy? I'd love to hear from all of you guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. You'll get a ton more videos just like this one, especially if you like these more sit-down talking discussions that we have. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you on the next one.